Welcome to the Angel Investors Network podcast, the first national angel group founded online in 1997, dedicated to perpetuating free enterprise, capitalism, and supporting the American dream. In addition, Angel Investors Network is the organization behind the powerful Mastermind Investment Club, dedicated to harnessing the philosophy of a mastermind to increase success with their investment portfolio. Cliff Locks is a serial entrepreneur with 3 successful exits and an angel investor. On the podcast, Cliff brings together the most successful privately held companies in America to share with you how they grow their businesses, and you can too. And now, here's your host, Cliff Locks.
I'd like to welcome Zvi Band, CEO of Contactually, to Angel Investors Network podcast. Your company has enjoyed some great growth. Let me share a few highlights. Zvi Band is the CEO and founder of Contactually, which he started in 2011. Contactually is one of the fastest growing companies on the Inc. 5000 list and is listed at 513. He's raised $17.8 million in investors' funds. You're active in the Washington, D.C. tech community. Contactually is a software service company that has grown rapidly with its amazing, growing, and dynamic team. Zvi says his team loves strong coffee, the latest technologies, strange internet memes, and accomplishing great things through better, stronger relationships. Contactually is a leader in the business software area. Zvi and his team early on recognized software as something people are forced to use, not enjoy using. There is a challenge. Zvi knew there needed to be a change, so the team doesn't design its software products to fit into an existing mold. They design it to help people with their work. Zvi created a collaborative and office environment. His space ensures the team thrives and does great work. The end result, Contactually, is rapidly growing. It's a learning organization that constantly is seeking to do better for their customers, the products, their team, and investors. I'm looking to learn more about Contactually, which is rated very well. It is an amazing software company, and it simplifies and automated personal communications with an extensive, loyal network of real estate agents using the software. With one click, users can connect their email accounts and Contactually automatically sync the contacts and communication history, which makes it really easy to stay in touch with contacts and build a robust referral network. Zvi, please tell our listeners how Contactually identifies past clients and others in the user's contact sphere of influence and prioritizes those relationships with them. I'm hearing users in the real estate business are seeing 42% increases in gross commission income. That's huge.
Thank you. Thank you for that incredibly powerful introduction. Contactually was founded on this idea that relationships are our most important asset. And if it really is an asset, then we need to build and maintain that asset. So the way that Contactually works is we're automatically aggregating and pulling in all of your relationships into one place, from email, social media, phone, calendar, etc., helping you identify who's important as well as who's not important. And then from there, helping you stay in touch and stay relevant to the relationships that are going to be most important for your career. So that in a nutshell is what Contactually has been doing.
Zvi, how'd you get started?
Contactually was founded based on my personal career journey. I should honestly not be here today. I'm an introverted software developer by trade. But early on in my career, I happened on this, amazing discovery that, sounds pretty obvious to anyone listening, but, that who I knew, but more importantly, who knew me, was this incredibly powerful tool. I knew I could, have the opportunity to leverage to be able to grow my business. And that's exactly what I did. At the same time, I kind of saw that, our human mind isn't necessarily trained and ready to be able to better build these relationships. And so that's where the core idea behind Contactually came about, is how could software help us build and maintain relationships? So started working on the prototype in July of 2011, started toying around with it more and more, got the first offer for funding in October 2011. And it was at that point we said, hey, this is no longer, just a little prototype that I'm playing with on the side. This actually has the opportunity to be a real company. The rest is history.
Very, very exciting. I mean, it's just an amazing career. I'm in the midst of trying to sell my house, and I'm going to ask my potential real estate agent if they're using Contactually at this point. And
awesome.
Of course, make an introduction for your team. Help me a little bit. What do you like most about the work that you're doing now?
Yeah, it's a really good question. For me, I've really done soul searching over the years to really understand what motivates me and what gets me out of bed. I'm a builder. I'm a Lego kid turned software developer, and now Contactually is kind of something I'm focused on building. So what excites me and what do I enjoy doing is I love the act of seeing Contactually build up every day and have the ability to influence it. Nowadays, as CEO, I spend most of my time outside the company doing sales and relationship building. And that's something I've come to love. I love building relationships nowadays and then seeing those relationships and seeing those friendships turn into amazing business relationships for the company.
That's exciting. So you think about it, you start out, as a tech individual and you morphed into a wonderful sales CEO mentor, to your team. The outside, the industry has recognized your software very, very heavily at this point, making a positive contribution. What are some of the factors responsible for your success?
I mean, I think there's can attribute like any number of things to their success, as well as a number of things that may even held us back. I think there are at core, if I boil it down to like core principles, I think there are a few things that have been instrumental to our success. I think one, first and foremost, is fundamental, just basic thing of just surviving every day. And I really do say surviving because persistence and constant execution, and no matter what happens, no matter how we fail, we still come in the next day and keep pushing forward. That has been really, really important for us. I think we could have thrown in the towel at any point in time and probably should have, but we kind of said like, no, we're going to keep going. Having a beginner's mentality and always, no matter how experienced we may think we may be, how much we think we may know the answer, we still always make sure we're open-minded to kind of get the best information possible. And last but not least, I do think I think there's definitely a big part of it that can be attributed to building an amazing team culture. I think that my job today is not to build the product anymore or even to build the company anymore. It's to build the team that builds the company.
Excellent. You've done some amazing growing, as an individual, and the company's coming along right with you. I've had the privilege of building 3 companies with successful exits. What you're sharing reflects, really highly on what I've done on my end to see the early days are not easy. It's the entrepreneurship that's sitting in us. And then as you reflect back and you're building and removing obstacles for your team members at this point and bringing forth and sharing, it's a wonderful opportunity to continue to scale and build. The addressable market is very, very large. It's global for you at this point.
And what I think most people don't really fully realize, especially when starting out, that again, you as a successful entrepreneur definitely see and agree with is how much of a mental game. You will have the highest highs and lowest lows in the same day, and nothing will change. It really does come down to just it's a battle of your own mind. You're your best cheerleader, and you're also your worst critic.
Very positive. Well, you're self-reflecting, which is really good at this point. It can be tough sometimes on us, but it works. What is the best advice you've ever received?
I would say some of the best advice I ever received, the one piece of advice I ever received is early on when I was just getting started. The very first investor who ended up investing in us, he sat me down and, what I knew about World War II history. And obviously, I know basics, right? I think it's hard not to know. He kind of described and kind of told me a story about how they end up hunting U-boats, right? About the famous U-boat hunters in World War II. And their job, the captain, what they had to do is they were obviously out at sea and they'd be receiving all sorts of signals from all over the place. A fisherman sighting what they thought was a periscope, flyovers and sonar and spy reports and other kind of data points. Oftentimes, it was conflicting with each other. It'd all be each by itself wouldn't necessarily be that useful. But when he pieced it together, they'd be able to say, all right, this is where we're going to go bomb because this is where we think the U-boat is. And he related that story and said, the job of, a CEO of a startup is essentially the same thing. You will be getting tons of advice and signals all day long, customers churning, new customers adding, advice from the market, journalists coming to you, employees with issues and questions and things like that. And the important thing is to not be so in reactive mode that you're reacting and getting whiplash from every single thing happening. But your job is to take all those data points and then piece those together, figure out which ones matter and which ones don't, and then from there plot a path forward. And that's been very important because that means everything I get is merely a data point, but it's also a data point. So that allows me to help understand, as best as I can, what's going on based on these, random pieces of things. And it also, has helped prevent me from overreacting to one customer complaint, for example.
Very good. So you're getting, sometimes it's noisy. And at that point, you got to filter it, and then you utilize, your years of experience and your team at this point to help come through with a concise type of plan that you can share a vision with the team, and they go out and they can execute it. And then I'm assuming you're a positive individual and you give out a lot of positive reinforcement to your team, looking to catch people doing the right thing at the right time.
Yep.
To me, that's fun too. What's the best advice you've ever given?
Best advice I've ever given. I probably have to say it's still something I've received that I then pass on.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes back to our point earlier. It was someone who, raising the first round of Contactually, first time entrepreneur. I mean, I was just miserable. It was incredibly challenging, and I was stressed out all the time and not enjoying anything about this, and wondering what I was doing here, thinking, we are going to fail. And it took a more experienced advisor of mine to literally just sit me down one day and said, Zvi, just have fun.
Excellent.
And that is something that it kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like, wow, you're right. I here doing something I'm so passionate about, I love, like, I should be having fun doing this. And that's really helped kind of structure my thinking. And now, obviously, like, from my experience, it can be an incredibly miserable, lonely, sad, challenging, scary time, ... if you let it. And I think the important thing that I always try and tell people who are, maybe in the doldrums, just to kind of say, hey, just have fun, right? This
Mm-hmm.
should be fun. This should be enjoyable. This should be exciting and engaging. And I still have to tell myself that every day.
I think it's very, very important what you're sharing. I have a mentor, Brian Tracy, that has been very benevolent on providing what I consider best practices. And he's got audio tapes, and you just Google YouTube and goals and Brian Tracy, and it comes up. You go through 5 or 6 of those YouTubes, and it's amazing the freshness, the uniqueness that you bring forth, because you have the skill sets. It's just a matter of believing in yourself and going out and executing. And like you're suggesting, if you're going to go out there and execute it, do it with a smile and just go out and do it. Make it look easy to the outside world. There is no excuses. Just go out. Having fun, I think, is really, really important for the team. And I've seen some photos of you and your team together, and you really have this camaraderie that's really rich, that's sustainable, and allows you to continue to scale and still keep, I think, your very, very positive beliefs on what the company should be, to continue as you're going to may have a middle management at some point in time. As you keep adding headcount, territory gets larger if you're going to go out globally. I'm proud of you, man. What's working for you to attract more business now?
I think there are 2 key things. I think it's the intersection of both. I mean, one is best thing, especially in this day and age, isn't any one digital marketing technique or lead gen or website tactic or anything like that. Having a really great product and having the social proof from it. And I really think social proof is the most important thing these days, because anyone can, drive traffic. Anyone can build a landing page. Anyone can tell a story and put together pretty screenshots. But, it'll be actual real customers, people that we've driven success with, built a relationship with, who say, hey, I personally have seen value in Contactually and working with the Contactually team, and I'm going to drive that. Even still, this day, we're nearing, 8 figures in revenue, and our biggest source of traffic is still direct and referral traffic, which is still just crazy for us. I think that's been important. The second is that, PR and content, that basically takes that message and amplifies it.
You're very sophisticated on your mode of going out into the marketplace, and there's churn inside the real estate business. Not everybody's going to make it in that business. There's some real rock stars and some folks that are growing and maturing and learning. I think it's a great industry. I think they're providing a very, very important service. The millennials, hopefully they have the cash flow to continue to go forward. And I think the real estate agents are going to be able to hold their hand a little bit to help them a little bit with the math to make sure it works well for the millennial community so they can buy, home ownership, condos. I think it's right there. It's an ecosystem, and you guys have this wonderful software that makes it easier for the agent to just do a wonderful job and actually run their side of the business versus, the business running them. So it's turning it around. And I think you're making it, the software allows them to have fun, within their business and enjoy the meeting of individuals and maintaining their database. But really, it's all about relationships at the end of the day. What are some of the most common mistakes you see clients making?
The core issue that we have, and I see this in the real estate industry, I see this in the other industries we serve, and I see this in general, is I think we fall victim to the tyranny of the urgent. And I think, we obviously, this is something even we face in our business, right? So focused on this month's sales or this quarter's pipeline that, we don't spend as much time thinking about, hey, what's going to drive us the best business and the best opportunities 3 years from now, right? I see this in real estate. I see this in humanity. We're so geared towards focusing on urgent and responding to the email at the top of our inbox or the push notification that we just got in that we need to swipe right on, that we often lose track of things that will drive our business forward long term. And I think, the best professionals I've seen in any industry, and especially applicable in real estate, are the people who are focused and coming in, focused on the long term and on the marathon, not just the sprint.
I think that's really, really important. Urgent versus strategic. And
exactly.
And it's right there at this point. So the individuals have to make it's maturity, and experience. What's going to run your life at this point? Are you in control, or are you going to let the outside, urgency actually control you? And I have those discussions with some of the folks that I coach. Guys, you're responsible for what's going on. You can take the leadership position. It doesn't point the finger at other people. You own it. And again, as you said earlier, have fun. At that point, it turns things around in a positive way. How do you solve some of those problems? In other words, you realize you're the CEO of the company. You're really tasked with thinking visionary, at least a year, 3 and 5 years out, but you got the day-to-day.
Strategy and planning, I think, is the most important thing. I mean, one of the more fundamental things I've gotten into practice of is separating strategy from execution. And I really mean that even just minutely in my day-to-day, every week on Sunday night, when my mind isn't thinking about work, I'll kind of plan out saying, hey, what can I do that will best benefit the company this week? Every morning when my mind is fresh, before I start responding to email, I'll put together my task list for the day. And then even for the business, my co-founder and I, we set aside long periods of time where we say, hey, not just how are things going right now, what could we be doing right now to benefit the business in the future? And we dedicate that time specifically, because otherwise if all we were doing was just kind of, going by whatever meeting is in our calendar or responding to whatever's coming inbound, get quickly locked into just responding to whatever's being thrown at us.
So you're actually getting together with your co-founder and you're doing strategy meetings off location.
Exactly.
Disruption. Okay. I salute you. Best practices. There's no question. You're doing some great things. Those meetings are, insightful and fun at the same time, because you guys built a sustainable, wonderful organization, really important to that real estate agent and that particular community. You did some things very early that you did right. Think about it. Think about the growth and how fast you've grown in such a short period of, time. I mean, the early days, I understand it was hard. We'll help people do some raises and they don't have sales of $1 million, and it's hard to friends and family, let's suggest, or early investors. Once your ARR, annual recurring revenue, is over $1 million, it opens up additional opportunities to do the raises. How'd you grow so fast?
We definitely have taken advantage of it. Investor capital, as you mentioned, we definitely raised, millions of capital and deployed that towards sales and marketing. I think it came from just initially investing really heavily in our product, and then continuing early on, especially as you're serving early adopters. They need to see that constant drumbeat of new features and new functionality, because that excites them. That shows them that oh, wow, this isn't a product that I am using just for what it has today, but a product I'm investing in because they're investing in this for tomorrow. And that really has been helpful for us. As I mentioned, this constant drumbeat of constant improvement and always bringing it every single day allowed us to throw a lot of spaghetti against the wall, see what works, and start doubling down on the things that, were working better than others.
I'm assuming you have a user group, may have been the beta, very benevolent to your team to share what they're learning on their end to improve the product. That communication, how does that flow from the individuals, the user group, to your team so you can consider those increased opportunities to fulfill some additional needs?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's still something we struggle with, and have from very early on. I mean, we definitely try and be as customer centric as possible. I credit everything we've built in Contactually to users telling us about it and kind of suggesting things. Now, as it scales, now that we have tens of thousands of users, look at trends like where are we getting a lot of customer support tickets for, or
Excellent.
when people are churning, what are they saying? And then we also have a group of kind of more innovative users that we're throwing features in front of and kind of seeing what they think, understanding what their needs are, things like that.
Very, very cool. This brings back some memories in my early days of career. I was a quality assurance. I'll date myself. Realize we were writing in COBOL in those days, even though some of the legacy systems in our Fortune 500 companies are still running on COBOL.
Wow.
It's pretty wild. But I had 6 programmers, in essence, reporting to me. They were the programmers, but again, I was out there actually talking to the customers to make sure the software. In those days, it was ledger, accounts receivable, accounts payable, putting the pagination program to the New York Times together. So, how much editorial, how many ads, put the page together. It was the users that helped drive all this to make it very seamless for them. What I love about your fine product, you got dashboards. It's very easy to communicate. You're proactive. The calendaring is wonderful. It's just a privilege to see how software has improved so substantially where it's seamless at this point. It doesn't matter what the device is. You're on the computer at home, you got a tablet, you got a smartphone, and everything is just synchronized together, and it's just one platform, and you can just manage your business that way. What type of growing pains did you encounter, and how did you deal with them? Growing rapidly.
Attributed to, there are kind of two things that we've done, and it comes down to essentially, like I would say, the over eagerness and lack of focus that we suffer from, especially early on. For example, early on product, there's this concept of building a minimum viable product.
Mm-hmm.
If your grand vision is to build a car, first thing you want to do is test out if people would buy a skateboard. And then, if that works, upgrade the skateboard to a bicycle, okay? And then see if people want that. Then a scooter, and then kind of a car. Instead, we said, hey, meaning focus on simple, basic functionality, prove it out, see if people in general are looking to, for example, move around the city or not, and then move up from there. Instead, we said, hey, here are all the features that we think need to happen inside of Contactually, and we built basically V1s of all of those. Essentially what we did is, instead of building a skateboard, we built a car with 4 flat tires, three broken windows, that would only turn left and not turn right? So we built a lot of functionality that worked enough for people to say, hey, I really like this, but didn't necessarily work that well. We accrued, what's called a lot of product debt. And so we had to invest very heavily in trying to reduce that product debt over the years. And that's something we still kind of fight with, even, a little bit today. There's still kind of this attitude that, Contactually, quote, is buggy, or at least was, and we established that reputation. So I think, a lot of our early mistakes were being kind of overeager and, not taking it slow. And again, treating this as a marathon, not a sprint.
I mean, you learned. I mean, it's really, really exciting. I mean, the ticketing system and the automation there does, provide you the data sets and dashboard to see where things are, where the improvements can come. The tools are wonderful now, the waterfall methodology to be able to code and make small improvements, push it out. Everybody's on the same, SaaS platform at that point. So, I see folks, even QuickBooks and others that are utilizing that program, they may be using a desktop version, but they may be supporting 5 different versions of that, each one being a different year versus, a SaaS platform. It's one version of the software. Yes, you have one for the Mac, one for the Windows, environment. Hopefully that makes it easier on the team consistency.
Yep, absolutely.
I ask one question, all my guests. Looking back, what would you do differently?
If I boil it down, I'd say focus. Focus has been an incredibly powerful tool that I think we did not take enough advantage of early on. And, meaning I much earlier would have focused on an industry. I would have focused our feature set. We would have focused our marketing tactics. If I were to go back and do one thing, it would probably be a little bit more around that.
Focus is everything. I mean, that's where the profitability, become an expert in a field and the funds flow. We know we can't be everything to everybody. So I think that's a wonderful way to look at things. And the passion, you and the team bring forth to really help an industry that really needs your tool set is just phenomenal. Tell our listeners how they can contact you to continue the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very easy to find. Contactually, if you just search for contact and actually, if they had a baby, it'd be Contactually, contact.com. My name is Zvi Band, first name ZVI, last name Band, like rock band. I am very easy to find online. First, there's only one Zvi Band out there.
Very, very positive. You've reached the end of another episode of Angel Investors Network podcast. Please feel free to contact me, Cliff Locks, on LinkedIn and angelinvestorsnetwork.com. We've been serving the needs of high net worth investors and entrepreneurs since 1997.
This show has been produced by Market Domination, LLC. To discover how you can have your own show completely done for you and turn it into a real published book and become the authority in your marketplace, go to www.marketdominationllc.com/podcast offer.